All right, thank you, everyone. As I said earlier today, during the City Council debate, we heard a lot of eloquence and passion, both for and against the budget. But I hope that what Chicagoans who were able to watch the City Council debate also saw in action and understand is that you witness democracy. Democracy in action. It is often messy, confounding, and sometimes frustrating, but it remains, in my view, the best system of government ever created. We've just passed a budget unlike any other in Chicago's history, one that reflects the very real and difficult challenges that COVID-19 has presented to our city, and particularly its impact on our local economy, but also serves as an extension of our values and shared commitment, continued commitment to equity, inclusion, and transparency. With the passage of our 2021 pandemic budget, we have done what is right for our residents and taken a critical step in our journey toward becoming a stronger, more resilient city. I have said before, and I say again, continued commitment to equity, inclusion, and transparency. Can you turn that off, sir? Are you ready? I've said before, and I will say again, this is not Mayor Lightfoot's budget. It is a budget by and for the people, a budget created and shaped by our entire city through their individual input and through that of their representatives. I want to first thank Chairman Pat Dow for her extraordinary leadership and support over the course of this difficult year. She has been a true champion of collegiality, transparency, and importantly, listening to her colleagues, but importantly to the people of Chicago. Pat, I want to thank you for facilitating almost 600 requests for information to the chair and your tireless work and helping us respond to the request from the members. I also want to call out and thank Chairman Scott Wagasback of the Finance Committee for his leadership and helping guide and explain the challenging fiscal challenges, not only of today, but of tomorrow. I appreciate his understanding and his leadership and his fierce advocacy that kicking the can down the road is not a responsible way to govern. I want to also especially thank and acknowledge our Florida leader, Chairman Gil Villegas, Sue Sadlowski Garza, Chairman Taliaferro, Chairman Cardenas, and also Alderman Irvin, King, and Haddon, as well as those who voted yesterday. Thanks to your invaluable teamwork and a collaboration of other leaders and residents across the city, this budget will close an unprecedented $1.2 billion gap. I also want to personally thank the men and women of organized labor, and particularly Bob Ryder of the Chicago Federation of Labor, for all of your efforts. We are on a journey together that is far from over and will require us to listen to each other and find common ground on the road ahead. A special thanks should also go to our budget ambassadors who volunteered to be part of this historic process, who convened community members and friends to talk about the budget, and who brought that feedback directly back to me. Thanks to the budget ambassadors for your invaluable work on this 2021 budget. This budget was also developed with extensive community input, and I want to express my deep thanks to the scores of residents and stakeholders who spoke up to share their perspectives and ideas on how the city spends its money and hard-earned tax dollars. And this includes the two women who are with us here today. Adrienne Johnson, UCAN's Vice President of Violence Prevention and Intervention Services, and Samantha Mitchell, COO of TCA Health for Mental Health. I also want to give my heartfelt thanks to my incredible finance team. Budget Director Susie Park, Chief Financial Officer Jenny Wong Bennett, and Comptroller Reshma Soni. And a special thanks to the members of the Intergovernmental Affairs team led by Deputy Mayor Manuel Perez, who received a battlefield promotion and stood tall in this moment that challenged all of us. I also want to call out Jarrell Dawson and the rest of the IGA team members for the incredible work that you did over the course of many, many long hours, days and nights and weekends. I also want to thank my Chief of Staff, Maurice Clausen, who guided the ship of state through many difficult storms. And as he has counseled me many times, the only way forward is through. And to all of you, on behalf of the entire city of Chicago, I want to say thank you. As we've said many times, budgets are more than just math problems. Settling on a modest, budgets are more than just math problems. They are statements of our values as a city and a community of nearly 3 million people. For this budget, that meant finding solutions in the face of unprecedented challenges that were not only fiscally responsible, but also met our obligations to our families and businesses who depend on the vital services of their city provides across many, many departments and infrastructure, across youth and senior services, across mental health, affordable housing, and so much more. Doing that in any year is a challenge, but this year required an effort unlike any that we've seen. Nearly 2/3 of our record $1.2 billion budget gap was tied to COVID-related impacts. And I want to talk about the things that we did, even in the midst of this big budget challenge, to show that we did not abandon our values. We created more than $500 million in structural solutions to build on our ongoing government efficiency goals. It's through the spirit of togetherness that we were able to take this pandemic as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to begin righting the wrongs that have prevented far too many of our residents from attaining their God-given potential, resulting in $36 million in investment towards violence prevention, $38 million investment in programming for our youth, $20 million separate funding in continued support of our mental health framework. And through collaboration, the promise of an alternative responder model that will move us closer to non-law enforcement mental health response when our residents are in need. Credit goes to the Department of Public Health, Commander Orsetti of the Chicago Police Department, and many aldermen, including Alderman Haddon and Hairston. All of us know that when we invest in our residents, we invest in our city as a whole. And these are just some of the many investments that this budget makes in our people, including our most vulnerable residents, who we can never abandon, no matter what the circumstances. Our values of equity, transparency, and inclusion shine through this budget like a beacon of hope to our residents who are most in need. What we have done this year to stand up and make sure that we leave no vulnerable resident behind continues into 2021 with the passage of this budget. We have leaned into our values and not abandoned them for more luxurious times. We have said, no, we must support our residents who are most in need, and that's what this budget does. By answering the cries of our communities and seizing this once-in-a-generation opportunity to move our city forward. That is why, despite the extraordinary challenges presented by this budget, we not only successfully closed our record budget gap, we did it in a fiscally responsible way. As we're all aware, in this extraordinary year also required us to make a modest increase in property taxes. And I've said it before, property taxes have to be a last resort. But in this last resort kind of year, we worked hard and came up with a proposal regarding the property taxes that will help us climb the necessary ramp to make sure that our pension funds are fully funded and that we keep our promise to our retirees. Even as we did so, We did this in a way that was in line with our mission to create structural solutions by tying all future property tax increases to the Consumer Price Index, a modest increase averaging about 1.8% over the last 5 years, enabling us as a city to move away from the cycle of no years of tax increase because it was too politically hard, followed by a surge in historic numbers due to the crisis of our own creation. We have to move away from those days, and with the passage of this budget, we do just that. We instead provide businesses and families with new financial stability and knowing what their budgets will look like in the years in advance in a transparent and predictable way, which is exactly what they deserve. I understand that this issue in particular was difficult for many in our city council, and you heard that expressed through the budget debate today. But I also want to thank those who did not vote for the budget. We have to move forward together, and you heard this from a number of members. We have to make sure that we continue to look for ways to find common ground, even with those that we disagree with. I spoke with, throughout this process, many people who we have not agreed with, because that was the right thing to do. I said that when we announced the budget forecast on August 31st. I continue to be committed to that, even people that I disagree with, even those who have a very different sense of the style of government, what our obligations are as elected officials. We will continue to have open ears, open heart, and open dialogue as we move forward. That's why I want to thank those city council members once again who made the difficult but right choice in voting for this budget. Now, how do we move forward? The only way is together, shoulder to shoulder, into 2021 and beyond, to take on these new challenges and find new solutions on this incredible journey to transform our city into one that is more equitable and inclusive for all of our communities. That work must continue. I said this last month. Our work for 2021 doesn't end with the passage of this budget. Now is the time for us to keep working, to make government run more equitably and efficiently, to create new opportunities for good jobs, and open more opportunities in the trades for women and people of color. We have many, many challenges that lie before us on our journey towards a more perfect union. I look forward to working with all of you to make that journey one that we can all be proud of. Public service is about collaboration and partnership. It's about sacrifice and putting country and city over self. By holding to our core values and shared commitment to the common good that has guided us through our path and will continue to light our way forward in the months and years ahead. Again, I want to thank everyone once again for continuing to stand up for what makes Chicago great, for all the challenges we have faced. I am certain that generations from now will look back on this moment with a measure of appreciation and pride. And through our passion and God's grace, we'll see ourselves through the rest of this crisis and build the great future that lies ahead for all of us, for generations to come. We must stand tall and meet these challenges head on. That is what we must do as elected officials, as leaders, as stakeholders, as residents of this great city in order to move us forward. We owe this not only to this time, but we owe this for the future that we are creating for our children and for their children. Being a leader is never easy. It's particularly not easy in a time like this. But I can tell you that I am humbled every single day to be the mayor of this great city, to work in collaboration with so many brilliant and innovative people in and out of city government. What I say to all of you is onward. The journey continues. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Adrienne Johnson to the podium. Ms. Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. My name is Adrienne Johnson, and I get the opportunity to serve as the Vice President of Violence Intervention and Prevention Services at UCAN every day. I'm here to commend the mayor, her administration and the city council, the aldermen of the city council, on passing a historic budget. Sorry. This budget is more than just dollars, actually. It provides us an opportunity, people who work in community, an opportunity to give young people a way forward, right? And it also gives me at UCAN and our staff at UCAN an opportunity to give young people a youth development coach. It gives us an opportunity to do street outreach and violence interruption, as well as career development, and offer our young people and residents in our communities clinical services. So as we move, this work has been done for so long, for decades, without any help from the city. So during this time, this historic budget pass is one that I'm personally very excited about, and I really believe that it will give young people in communities an opportunity to move forward, to be great, to be everything that they were created to be. And in 2019, the mayor passed an $11.5 million budget, and now for violence prevention. And now in 2021, it's a $32 million budget. And I just want to say thank you. I work in communities that have, that people kind of throw away. Young people get thrown away all the time. And so I just want to say thank you, not just to you, but to the aldermen in the city council for thinking about people who are often not thought about on a regular basis. And it not just give them an opportunity to move forward, but it also gives the residents in those communities an opportunity to feel safe. And everybody in every single community wants to feel safe. And this gives us an opportunity to do the work, to continue to do the work that we love doing every single day. And with that, I just want to thank you again. And I want to introduce Veronica Clark.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So I'm Veronica Clark, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer at TCA Health Center. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. And I also want to extend a thanks to, they're not here, but Matt Richards and Dr. Arway and the entire Chicago Department of Public Health for selecting TCA Health to be part of the City of Chicago's trauma-informed network of care. With the passing of today's budget, we're excited to do our part to make the City of Chicago a national leader in trauma-informed care. TCA Health is celebrating its 50th year anniversary of providing co-located primary care, behavioral health, and dental care and support services on Chicago's far south side. We're a federally qualified community health center, and we're located in Riverdale and in Chatham, two of Chicago's communities whose population are predominantly Black or African American, and they're also low income. Health disparities run deep and are among the highest in our city. And our high rate of chronic health disease, of course, and the health disparities are also affecting us. We've had even a higher rate of COVID-19 in the areas we serve. TCA Health provides integrated behavioral health services that meets the needs of residents in our service area, that are culturally reflective of the people we serve, and that are high quality and barrier-free. TCA Health serves anyone in need, regardless of their ability to pay. In addition to our 2 health centers, TCA operates a school-based health center located in Carver Military Academy, a mobile health clinic, 4 WIC sites, and an expansive health and wellness initiative. TCA Health beginnings were in the Otgell Murray Homes public housing community. And in 1997, our health center relocated and is now adjacent to the housing complex. With the passing of today's budget, TCA Health is grateful again to Mayor Lightfoot, thank you, and the City of Chicago for this great award that will allow our organization to become a trauma-informed center of care. With a COVID-19 lens, TCA plans to utilize a multifaceted approach to building capacity and expansion of trauma-informed behavioral health services offered to residents in the Riverdale and Chatham communities. We plan to employ a comprehensive effort to build trauma-informed workforce by providing trauma and self-care activities for our staff. And we thought we'd start with staff first because, as you know, when COVID hit in March, our staff, they're at the forefront. So we thought we want to take care of them as they take care of other folks. So we want to continue to develop trauma-informed policies and procedures, mobilizing an informed leadership team, and to ensure organizational infrastructure is reflective of trauma-informed care. Capacity will be increased along multiple continuums. We will expand the behavioral health services offered, increase the number of patients whose needs will be met, and enhance our staff's expertise. Plans also include the addition of new positions, which we're excited about, an increased wage, which I'm even more excited about, for existing staff, including medical assistants, who will be working on the projects. And for my staff, if they're listening, that's underway. Letters were sent out to every one of our employees yesterday, so I know they're thrilled as they open these letters. This is a significant strategic undertaking for TCA Health, as it will allow the organization to become contextually responsive to the needs of the youth and adults in our service area. Again, I would like to thank Mayor Lori Lightfoot and the Chicago Department of Public Health for this phenomenal opportunity. And I'd also like to thank the aldermen and alderwomen who voted yes today to make this opportunity possible for all of us, and especially those of us who see communities who are in dire need. And I'd like to take this moment to not only thank our Alderman Scott, but also to welcome him to the podium. Alderman Scott, Wageswager, 32nd Ward. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Give him a second. All set? Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. During this budget year, we've seen an unprecedented amount of transparency and accountability in the way we have managed this budget. I want to thank the mayor and all of her staff, all Chairwoman Pat Dowell and her staff, and as well as my staff, for working through in the best way possible what has been a very contentious, but also, again, one of the most transparent budgets that I've seen in my time as alderman. When you look at what has happened over the last several months with this pandemic, we have an unprecedented opportunity to change the way we structure our budgets, change the way we structure government, and the mayor has done that here. A lot of people talked about the issues that they felt were wrong within the budget, but more often than not, people came up with good ideas about how to transform the city amidst this pandemic. One of the biggest issues that I want to talk about and take a moment on is the equity and inclusion piece in this budget. What we've seen over the last several decades is an effort to push back on Black and brown communities so that they don't have a part in how government is run, they don't have a part in how our bond deals happen, and our legal teams. And what the mayor has done here with their staff today is increase those percentages to a point that I have never seen in my lifetime and that few people have. I think it goes a lot to say about how her efforts concluded today with the passage of this budget, what they mean to all of the communities in this city. The outreach that she's done, the outreach that her staff has done, has been unparalleled in my time as alderman. So I think that when we look forward, coming out of the back end of this pandemic, hopefully very soon, we are positioned through the mayor's efforts in her task force on recovery of the city, in her efforts in Invest in Southwest, and her efforts building up through this whole budget with all the aldermen, with the officials throughout the city and other elected governments, with the women that we have here today that are benefiting from city government in a way that they have not before, to help people, to keep families working, to help those with mental health issues, to reform the police department, and a long list of things that this government has not done in the past. They are happening today. They're happening under this administration, unlike they have in the past. And I want to show my continued support for what the mayor has done here. I think that we have a long way to go. We have a long way before we get out of this pandemic. But this mayor, this council have pointed us in the right direction. We have turned this ship around, and this city is moving in a direction I think we can all be proud of. So again, thank you, Mayor Lightfoot, for all of your efforts. I think with that, I'm going to be turning it over to my colleague, Chairwoman Dowell, who again has been an incredible asset to the city by making sure that all of the people on her staff and all of the people working with her have the access to the documents they need, access to information, and access to make sure that you have an informed vote that passed this budget today. So with that, I want to hand it off to my colleague, Chairwoman Pat Dowell. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Alderman Chairman Wagaspat. I am incredibly proud today that my colleagues supported the 2021 budget. We have 34 members in the budget committee, on the budget committee, and every member was vigorously engaged in the whole budget process which spanned 2 weeks. We had very robust discussions. We met in caucuses, and all the caucuses met with each other. And as over time, we found the various members of the City Council advocating for increased investments in mental health or violence prevention in our youth and in homeless services. I think we realized over the course of the budget hearings that it would be really difficult to reduce a $1.2 billion deficit, close that, and at the same time make increased investments in services and programs that the people of Chicago have come to expect and what our city needs. But I think we did it. I know we did it. And today we did it with the least amount of hurt and stress to our businesses and to our residents. I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot and her finance team, Jenny, Susie, and Reshna, for their leadership. The mayor was extremely collaborative, working with us, talking to us, giving us other points of view. And I think that the budget that was passed today is a great example of the executive branch and the legislative branch working together. I am hopeful that as we move out of the pandemic, the goodwill that we have created in this process will continue as we work to solve the problems of the city and to create a more livable community, a more livable Chicago for all residents here. So I think I'll end there. I started the end of the budget meeting with a statement about now let's go make sausage. We made the sausage, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done today in the city of Chicago. Thank you.
Mayor, a few questions.
Sure.
Question from Bill Cameron. What do you think of the new proposal to put a tax on third-party package deliveries?
This is something that was introduced just yesterday by Alderman Thompson. This was an issue that we actually looked at and saw some challenges both under state law and also under federal law. But I've spoken to Alderman Thompson recently about this proposed ordinance, and we're going to continue to work together to see if there's a way through this. But there are some definitely some significant legal hurdles that have to be addressed.
Questions from Fran Spielman. Last year, you celebrated your first budget victory with a scotch and a cigar. How do you plan to celebrate this year?
Exactly the same way.
Mayor,
And a steak.
another question from Fran. Also, you said you don't buy votes, that you don't believe in transactional politics. Why then did you make so many concessions to get this budget passed?
Well, I don't buy votes, and I never will. But the democratic process is about compromise. It's about listening to each other, having people come forward with ideas, pulling those ideas apart to see if they make sense in the context of a larger frame. And that's precisely what we did with this budget. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of listening, a lot of, I think, historic partnership and collaboration among a variety of different city council members, the different caucuses, and individual members. So this is a budget, I think, that really demonstrated why it's important to compromise and collaborate.
Question from Fran Spielman. Are you concerned about the narrow margin of victory and what that might mean when it comes to the equally tough decisions ahead?
I'm not at all. As I've said many times from really day one, I governed to 26. A rubber stamp city council does a disservice not only to the members but also to the people. I think that what probably is one of the most interesting things today is the very last vote, 41-8 in favor of the capital plan. People want to make sure that they're getting services that they can show their residents why they've done what they've done. But as I said, I think this was, and I don't need to say it because it was said by the members of the City Council, transparent, collaborative, historic, and we have momentum, as Chairman Dow said, to keep moving forward. So I'm actually very enthusiastic about what the future holds for continued work with members of the City Council.
Questions from Amy Jacobson. What are your plans for Thanksgiving, and will you remain in Chicago?
I will be celebrating Thanksgiving with my immediate family in Chicago.
What role do the 2,000 city employees hired to spread information about COVID going to be doing this Thanksgiving? Will they be responding to calls of too many in one household celebrating Thanksgiving?
I'm not sure what you mean by the 2,000 people. We have, as Dr. Arwani and I announced a few weeks back, put together as part of our Protect Chicago plan a neighborhood activation plan that is bringing in a number of city workers, and perhaps that's what you're talking about. But their role is to be present in neighborhoods to provide information to residents in multiple languages and connect them up with services all around educating folks about COVID-19. We're not going door to door to break up house parties, but let me say this, and I'll repeat the advice that Dr. Arwani and other public health officials have given. While we are starting to see some glimmer of light, I want to remind people we're still seeing over 2,000 cases, new cases a day. We're still seeing the highest level of deaths that we've seen, I think, through this pandemic. COVID-19 is very much part of our present. It has not gone away. People should not think that they can take their foot off the gas or otherwise ignore the public health guidance around wearing masks, social distancing, and not celebrating Thanksgiving in the normal way. We are going to be 3 plus a dog in my household, meaning, no mom, no brothers, sisters, and I know other people are making those same kind of sacrifices. That is the only way that we will get through this very difficult second surge that in some ways is worse than the first. But I encourage people to do the right thing, be diligent, and let's hope that we can celebrate the end of the year, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and the New Year in a different way. But we won't get there if we don't do the hard work right now.
Question from Paul Williams from Law 360. Mayor Lightfoot, what was your stance on the Amazon head tax proposal, and how much consideration did you give it during the budget process?
Well, I believe that ordinance was literally just introduced in City Council maybe a week ago. Something coming that late did not get committee consideration and obviously didn't affect the budget itself. But I've been very clear myself. I haven't had time to study that ordinance, but head taxes are regressive. They're not, in my view, the best way to generate revenue. And I would be surprised if this particular ordinance has some new wrinkle to it that would make me think that this kind of head tax is better than the other. I don't think you do that. We had extensive hearings on many alternative forms of revenue, including a head tax, and I think many members came away understanding that that's probably not a good source of revenue for the city of Chicago, given not only that it's regressive, but the many indirect and adverse consequences that flow from it.
A couple of questions from WBZ. What is the biggest lesson you learned during this budget process?
Well, there's many that I've learned. I think that what I'll say is this. This was a really difficult, hard budget. It stretched all of us in lots of different ways. What I appreciate is the number of city council members who were willing to listen, who came to the table in good faith with a number of different proposals, many of which made its way into the budget. I think this is the way that we have to proceed going forward. We live in a time where too often people with different views demonize somebody who doesn't have a view with them. I heard some say, if I don't get my way, I turn the table over. Well, we don't let 5-year-olds do that. And we have to be leaders and lead by example in the way in which we conduct our business. And I think this process really showed that that is possible. And I'll repeat what I said before, which is we have a tremendous amount of, I think, goodwill that was generated through this process that can propel us forward through the end of the year into 2021 to really meet the challenges that are still there. We haven't solved every problem with the passage of this budget, far from it. And if we take the same spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of we, not me, then we're going to be able to get a lot of great things done for the residents of the city that they deserve.
Many of the no votes came from aldermen who represent the wealthiest and whitest areas. Are you concerned about that, or what do you make of that?
Well, see, I would actually turn the question on its head and say, if you look at the diversity of the members who voted yes, that I think is a step in the right direction. And also, there were many members who are white who voted for the budget. I like to think of the positive and not the negative. And I think that what we demonstrated is that in a really, really difficult time, a coalition that is diverse, both racially, that is diverse in political views, from some of the most conservative members to people who identify as socialists, came together to vote for this budget. And as many members said, because in this time, this is the best path forward. I think that is one of the biggest lessons that we saw play itself out today.
Question from Chris Hush from NBC5. Will your proposed ordinance for expanding and extending outdoor dining program and license expiration be enough for restaurants during the slow winter months?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's going to be a challenge. I'm hoping that we continue down the path that we are, which is seeing our case rates start to slowly decrease, bending that curve that we talk about so much. But the truth is it's already been a very difficult time for our restaurant industry. The fourth quarter is so important for them to really meet the revenue needs for the entire year, and yet they're facing one of the hardest fourth quarters that they have faced probably for many restaurateurs ever. So there's a lot more that will need to be done, starting with we've got to get the federal government to stand up and do its job, to stop the partisan bickering and recognize that residents, Americans, taxpayers, small business owners, our most vulnerable residents need more. There's so much that we can do at the local level. There's so much that we can do at the state level, but we cannot do all this and meet all the needs of our residents without the federal government's help. So we're going to continue to lift up the voices of our residents here and across our state, across the country. I am heartened to say that the Biden team has reached out. It was like a breath of fresh air, given what we've been through over the last 4 years. But we need action, and we need action now in order to save those businesses that are struggling, in order to meet the needs of our most vulnerable residents. Yes, we passed a budget that fills a $1.2 billion gap, but we did it with a lot of painful choices that we didn't have to make if we had a partner in the White House and in the federal government that understood and heard the cries of residents, not just in Chicago, but all across this country. So we've got to keep pushing for the federal government to stand up and do its job.
Final question from Bloomberg. Can you offer a comment related to calls that more resources should have been shifted from funding for police to communities in need than this budget has done?
$36 million for violence intervention, $20 million just for community-based mental health, $1 million for a pilot for alternative response, millions of dollars for housing, for homelessness prevention. The list goes on and on. If you look at this budget, and you actually examine the line items, what you're going to see is tremendous supports that answer specifically what many in the community have asked for, is more support for the things that are going to help them live healthy, vibrant lives and be able to recognize and realize their God-given talents. We have not abandoned our values, and we never will as long as I am mayor. We will continue to lean into our North Stars of equity and inclusion. This budget does just that, even in this extraordinarily difficult year. So I ask Chicagoans to look at the budget, to read through the details. They are there, they're available, because what you're going to see, as Chairman Wagasbeck said, is we are living our values. We are manifesting our commitment to our residents. We are putting our money where our mouth is, and I think we've done well under very difficult circumstances.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be safe.